So I've been able to spend some time with Battlefield 2042 Season 4 update, and I've got some thoughts, also known as a review. Firstly, let's address the new map, Flashpoint. With DICE still only releasing a single new map with each season, there's a lot riding on the experiences that it provides. Unfortunately, there's no longer a group of maps being launched favoring different play styles and gameplay. It comes down to a one-size-fits-all, and in this case, it's pretty clear that it's not appeasing everyone. I'll start off by saying what's good about the map, and then we can discuss the problem areas. Now, the best thing about the new map is that it offers gameplay that's not really that prevalent on any other previous maps. Super crazy, chaotic, often spammy gameplay. On Breakthrough, the matches begin with almost instant action. There's very little lead-up time to the first fight. It basically just begins, and before you know it, explosions and bullets from a full team of enemies are everywhere. Visually, the map does look pretty good, and it provides a different style of desert topography compared to what we've already seen in the game. The rocky hills are pretty cool looking and offer lots of clumped up rock cover instead of a more smooth surface that you might find in previous games or previous maps. The individual combat zones feel really detailed and have a lot of cool engagement sequences at times. Dropping down the massive hole in the ground into the large tunnel is a highlight, as is driving vehicles through that tunnel and getting into firefights. It's also a map that gives you a bit of a learning curve as you'll get better while playing it over longer periods of time. Most maps in Battlefield have very shallow learning curves, so your performance in those maps is mostly going to be based on your existing skill and teamwork, less than actually learning the map. But Flashpoint has objectives that are extremely exposed, so learning the angles and good spots is going to be more important than ever. I started off not really enjoying the map much, but began to enjoy it more and more as I learned the different angles and ways that I could make it work. Alright, on to the bad stuff of Flashpoint. The Breakthrough mode has some real problematic areas. The second objective, in my opinion, isn't really a fun firefight, with both teams scrounging for tiny little bits of cover. The push-up and action areas are very spammy and not particularly fun to play, and the flanking routes feel less like routes and just the general front lines. There isn't really a lot of moving up from bit of cover to bit of cover, and really more of a need to brute force your way through a large open sequence. Thermal optics are super OP here in my opinion. I think once players start to figure this out more, it's going to become thermal warfare across the board. The next set of objectives skips the underground tunnel sequence, which is a real shame as that's one of the cooler sections of the map, and to leave it out of the Breakthrough mode is similar to how they left out the cliff jump sequence on Breakaway. It's like having Domovan Peak without the peak in it. The next series of objectives play out pretty similarly with sparse cover in many areas. You're almost always dying to angles that you didn't anticipate, or more likely you just can't control or anticipate because there's so many of them. One of the rigs has a tunnel sequence below it where the defenders can drop in on you from above in like 6 different angles, and it's an absolute nightmare trying to push up through there. Multiple of the objectives let you capture as attackers from the rooftops of buildings, which especially for the last point feels like a bit of a mistake. The interior was clearly designed to be the main firefight area, and you can just zipline to the rooftop, spawn camp any reinforcements, and take the flag without actually having to take over the inside of the building. There just seems to be like a lot of design flaws in the Breakthrough sequence that makes pushing up feel like it's primarily reliant on team momentum and not so much tactical progression from cover to cover sequences. In fact, it's really hard and almost impossible for the attackers to play slowly. If they play slow, they may not actually win, but once momentum builds, it becomes just a steamroll. Rounds can go insanely fast or take all day, and while variety isn't a bad thing, steamrolls are pretty much never fun regardless if you're attacking or defending. Now, Conquest plays out a lot better in my opinion, as you just don't have the same amount of infantry and concentration on so many different angles of exposure. But again, the central points can be trying with infantry on every hill and VTOLs raining death from above. It's a tough map in general, and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. The experience would be much more acceptable if it was one of, say, 3 maps that we're launching and this was more of the crazy map. But because it's the sole map experience, it just feels a bit unrefined in areas. Not all areas, to be fair, and some seem like they're set up quite well, while others just have glaring oversights. That said, after playing it for like 5 hours straight, I do want to play it more and learn the angles and better ways to approach the map. Not a lot of Battlefield maps offer bigger learning curves, so that's something to look forward to with this one, even if the learning curve is learning to survive in areas with almost no cover. Now, the new Specialist Blasco seems pretty good. I actually like playing with her a lot. The gadget that breaks locks and spots is super useful, perhaps less useful when playing Assault and Breakthrough, but on the defense, you can combine it with, say, like Irish's abilities to start creating some pretty powerful defenses. And I kind of like that. It sort of feels like the first time where coordinated squads could start to make certain areas super hard to get through based on gadget synergy. For Conquest though, her gadget seems like it's going to be a bit less useful, though being recon, her spawn beacon will always be useful on the Conquest mode. And of course her ability to not be spotted by gadgets is extremely useful in itself. Now when it comes to the new weapons, I'm still progressing through the battle pass at a relatively normal pace, so I can't yet comment on some of the higher level stuff yet. That said, the new AC-9 SMG is fun and quite deadly. I don't think it's going to quite dethrone the K30 from my perspective anyway. The multi-kill potential with the K30 is still extremely powerful. You can upgrade the AC-9 to a 40 round magazine, which makes it far more effective, but you'll still need to be extremely close to make it effective. Now, I unlocked and played with the new SPH explosive launcher as well, and it's gonna be a tough sell for the assault class. I mean, do you want to sacrifice your C5 for one of these instead? Perhaps in the right situation, or you really don't like getting in close and going after vehicles, then perhaps this isn't a bad choice, but it's slow, so it's more about taking out enemies from behind cover or down a hallway. Still, it seems to be a bit more of a meme style weapon than anything. Shoot a guy and watch them explode a few seconds later. Now, I've almost got the new LMG unlocked, but it's going to be a while before I get to try out that new assault rifle and sidearm shotgun. I also don't have the new CAV brawler yet, but I did see a few roaming around and hopped into one. They seem good, but it's a bit early to weigh in on their actual balance. The portal guns are, well, portal guns. I don't really know what else to say about them. I've been pretty adamant the whole time that I think the way they're being designed and injected to the game is really lackluster and disappointing, and I feel the same way with the new ones. Now, the new Battle Pass cosmetics look pretty darn decent. I still think Season 3 has it beat in terms of the variety of cool Battle Pass skins, but again, that's a pretty subjective situation, and Season 4 definitely has some solid unlocks. DICE also made some stealth changes to the game. The minimap has new size settings and icons that show the elevation of your enemies much better. Pretty cool. Also, Casper seems to be able to blow up gadgets or more gadgets now with his charge up ability on his drone, so he might be getting some more use. There's been some balance changes to Liz to try and make her rockets a bit more skill based, and some various other tweaks and balance passes to other areas of the game. Generally, this season isn't quite as exciting as it was to me as Season 3 was. It's still competent in most ways, but the single map offering is still probably the bigger letdown of just the seasonal design in general. Spearhead kept me entertained for quite a while, as much as a single map can keep me entertained for, but if DICE has another seasonal event that focuses on a single map for like 3 weeks of nothing but Flashpoint, it's gonna be rough. Now, in general, each new update to the game seems to improve the variety offered pretty substantially, and if anything, Flashpoint is that, variety. I know some people love the new map for the more chaotic experience, and I'd be curious to actually hear your take on it in the comments. We still have the discarded rework to look forward to later in the season, plus portal guns if you like that sort of thing, and check out my Season 3 review next. I think you'll find the comparison interesting, and as always, thanks for watching. This is Level Cap, signing off.